Deputy Tony McLoughlin. You've 10 minutes.
Thank you very much indeed, I wish to begin my contribution to this important debate today by moving on somewhat, if I may, from discussing in detail the causes and the consequences of the tragic refugee crisis which is currently unfolding in the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe. I do so as, although there are many important components to the overall debate, I believe that there are many outstanding issues which need to be resolved at home in this state, which, if not continuously highlighted at the highest political level, will lead to even greater suffering long-term for the many more refugees and their families who are expected to arrive seeking refuge in Ireland over the coming months and years. This will include refugees currently fleeing the war in Syria and the Middle East. Instead, I want to focus on three key areas which I believe need to be addressed by the government going forward. We need to do so in order to make the entire refugee process here better and more humane to applicants. I believe that we need to have greater empathy as a state in this regard. The first issue I want to raise is the issue of delays. As I am sure you are very much aware, many refugee applications in this country have been stuck in the current direct provision system for over 8 years before their applications have been resolved fully. And I personally know many people who have had similar delays in reaching a final decision. Whilst understanding the different type of applications and the legal issues involved, be it for subsidiary protection or leave to remain, I do not believe that delays of this length of time are acceptable, nor now nor in the past. The fact that delays such as these have been allowed to continue until now have done both the Irish state and the human beings involved no good whatsoever. I read the facts today in the Oireachtas Library, which states that the Office of the Refugee Application Commission believes that refugee status applications saw an increase of 126% in 2015 from the 2014 figure, and that family reunification application also increased by 63% from the previous year. Increased demand this year has clearly had a drastic effect on already long waiting times for decisions and information. And I asked Laz Cancurla, what is to be gained for a refugee application being left to their own devices, often sitting bored and unchallenged in small, cramped conditions? Should there be a state intervention which would allow these people to contribute in a better way to the communities they are living in? I do wonder. At present, applications have no rights to work here, can do very little with their time, and as such have to make do with €19.10 per week, which they receive from the state whilst they wait on the decision to arrive. Who does this benefit? I'm not sure if there is a precedent in Europe, but surely there has to be a better way of conducting this situation for all involved, whilst these waiting lists remain very long. The next issue I want to raise is the ongoing issue with applicant accessing their legal information. The way I see it is that at present there is a major problem with the way some legal professionals who are appointed to represent particular refugee applicants operate. I would even go so far as to say that it is borderline negligence at times. The state pays many legal professionals large amounts of taxpayers' money in order to represent particular refugee applications through all stages of their application in this country. Yet, Cancurla, on many occasions in the numerous cases which I have dealt with, the application cannot get in contact with their solicitors, they cannot receive responses to their query, or they cannot get an appointment to discuss their case face-to-face with their state-subsidised legal representation. This is not good enough in my opinion. Often in situations like these, I take the liberty to try and contact these legal offices on the applicant's behalf, or even as an elected representative, find it difficult to break down the barriers and to get a response. This particular issue needs to change. It should not be this difficult to access simple information. The location of these legal professionals selected is another major issue. For example, many applicants who reside in Globehouse and Sligo have been appointed solicitors in Galway or Dublin or further afield. This makes the communication issue I highlighted even more difficult and only adds to the difficulties faced by refugees. I believe that the changes currently being made by the Department of Justice with regard to the implementation of the new International Protection Bill needs to consider this aspect closely, and measures need to be created to make accessing their legal information easier. Finally, Cancurla, I believe that there are and continues to be many issues with the way Inish conducts its business currently. I, as a public representative, have made countless representations to Inish over the last 5 years and throughout the course of the 31st Dáil. I often found the process quite tiresome. Refugees, visa applications and other services users who have exhausted every avenue with trying to get simple information from Inish and their legal teams often end up calling to my office as a last resort to seek often very trivial information. When I write to Inish, it could take anything up to 10 working days to receive a reply at peak times. I want to see a system in place whereby refugees or visa applications are sent direct monthly updates as to the position of their appeals or applications, and I believed that they should be better informed throughout the entire process of the timelines involved. Like many of my colleagues in this House, I was very happy to support the International Protection Bill during the passage through the Oireachtas. I believe that this bill will go a long way towards improving waiting lists and adding an extra human approach to proceedings. However, I believe that we need to see the components of this bill introduced much quicker. I have submitted parliamentary questions as to the length of time it will take to introduce this bill here and have requested details on the staffing arrangements for the new agencies which will be created. Yet I am still unclear as to the developments. However, Cancurla, simply changing the names of the old agencies without adding additional staffing resources will not have any effect on the capacity causing delays involved. We need the proposed single mechanism structure to place faster in order to speed up the applications process to cut down long delays. And I also want to suggest to the Minister the need to create regional Inish and refugee application representation offices. This would reduce the major burden on the current location in Dublin and would also benefit applicants and citizens travelling from outside the capital. To conclude, I want to reiterate the point that I fully believe that any person who does not have a legal right to be in this country should be removed from here as quickly as it is possible. However, those who do meet our criteria should also be allowed to get through the process and begin contributing to Irish society more quickly. I know many examples where people who have eventually got through our process are now on stamp 4 visas and have set up their own businesses, have full-time jobs, and are fully integrated into our society and contributing to the Irish economy. I welcome the fact that the current system is undergoing a long overdue overhaul. However, I do feel that resources at Inish, long delays in processing applications, assessing legal information and the introduction of the new single mechanism system are major areas which need to be addressed. Gurmag.